Creating a household budget can really keep you on top of your finances and show you where you can maybe afford to cut back and where you are spending more than you think you are. It basically brings everything out into the light so you can keep on top of your finances and work towards a more secure financial future. In this video, I'm going to show you a simple way to create one in 10 easy steps. Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Hi, my name is Amy. It is nice to meet you. On this channel, I post about frugal living, feeding your family on a budget and saving money. So if you like that kind of thing and you haven't already, then please subscribe and like this video. So today I'm going to talk you through a 10-step system that I use every month to create our household budget. And it is something I do every month. It doesn't often change now because I have been doing it for such a long time and I know what's going where, but it's still something that I do refer back to every month and check what I'm actually spending and what's actually going where. So why should you have a household budget? Well, budgets really enable you to keep on top of everything. If you don't know where exactly your money is going, chances are a lot of it is just being wasted and you don't necessarily even know that that is happening until you've got it down on paper in black and white. By giving every single penny of the income that's coming into your household a job, you really can make your money work for you, which will improve your financial situation and also lead towards a better financial future for you and your family. Since I started using a household budget, our outgoings have reduced significantly, and I've also been able to pay off debt quicker than we thought we were going to, and also put money away into savings. Now, by doing those things, I have also been able to free up money for things that we want to be doing, things we want to be spending our time doing that previously we didn't have the money to do. So this step-by-step process just breaks down the different sections of your budget. The way that I do it is by order of importance. Obviously that is personal for me, but it is the way that I feel works best. I will link below the spreadsheet that I use, and you are more than welcome to use that. It's a very basic spreadsheet, but it does keep track of the income and the outgoing, and then it gives you your total at the end so that you can work it out onto a zero-based budget basis. That's a lot of B's. So step one to creating a household budget is to have a reason. Now your reason might be to pay off debt, your reason might be to put some money away for the future, or you might be saving towards a specific goal. You might want to go traveling, or you're saving for university for your children, or it could be anything. But by having that goal in mind, whatever it is you're working towards, it will keep you focused on that budget every single month, and you're then able to come back to it and go, yep, I've worked towards that, just that little bit more this month, and it really does help to keep you on track. Before you create your first budget, I would really recommend getting together your bank statements and all of your receipts for ideally the previous 3 months, but as long a period of time as you can. If you only have access to a month or even just a week, then do go through them. And then you can track exactly what your outgoings are and exactly what your income is. So step 3, we're just gonna look at your income. Don't worry about your outgoings at all for a minute, just focus on your income. Every single piece of income that comes into your house over the period of time that your budget is based. I do ours monthly, so that's sort of what I'm going to be referring to in this video, but you might be doing it for a week, or you might be doing it four-weekly, however it works for you. But every single piece of income that comes in over that time needs to go down on your budget. So you may have a salary that's paid to you, your partner might have a salary, you might be on certain benefits, you might receive child support payments. Absolutely any income that comes into your household needs to go down on your spreadsheet. So when you've worked out everything that's coming into your household, it's time to start working out what is going out. Always start with your essential costs, and even more than that, start with your fixed essential costs. So that's things like your rent or mortgage payment, your utility bills, your council tax, everything that kind of keeps your household running. So if you need a car to get to work, then your car insurance cost would go down on that. All of those things that just keep your life running smoothly. All of those are essential costs. Start with all the fixed costs and put down an estimated and an actual column. So in the estimated, if you know what those costs are going to be, brilliant, put them all in. Those should be the same every single month. So put down your estimated costs, and then when you come to review things before you do your next month's, you can put in an actual cost, so that if there's any discrepancy there, you can then follow up straight away. And then you need to go on to your variable essential costs. Now, this is things like food and public transport or fuel costs if you need to travel that way to maybe get to work or school or university, whatever it is that you have to be doing as part of your day-to-day life. This doesn't include things like eating out or going to the cinema. Those are all non-essential costs. This is just the things that keep your life running. So everything that is an essential variable cost goes down here. So when you're looking at your variable costs, put down an average spend. So this is where your previous receipts and statements come in handy. Look back through and see what you've spent in previous months and put that as your initial budget. If you genuinely believe you can lower that, then do put a slightly lower amount, but do make sure that it is realistic, whatever you put in there. So say your food budget, you've been spending £100 a week, don't try and make it for £20 a week, because you will not be able to stick to it. But if you think you could bring that down to 90, try that. When you then come to the end of the month and you're putting in your actual spend, you'll be able to see whether, yes, you managed to stick to it, maybe you even managed to get it a bit lower, and then you can set the budget to the lower amount. But if you weren't able to do it, you know then that that is the level you need to stick at, and maybe there's a different area of your budget you could look to lower if you need to. Step 6 is where you look at your debt and your emergency savings. Now obviously if you already have emergency savings and you don't have any debt, you can skip this step entirely. But if you do have debt, it really should be coming, in my opinion, after your essential costs but before your non-essential costs, rather than being sort of tagged on at the end. And I would always, if you can, repay your debt by a little bit each month if you can, because every single extra penny that you can use to pay off debt will reduce the overall amount you pay, because it will reduce the interest that you pay. So put all of your debt down, put down your minimum payments in your budget, or your minimum payments plus 5% or 10%, however much you can afford to repay. You can always adjust these as you get to the end of your budget, and if you have money left over in your budget, then it can be bumped forwards onto those. So I use something called zero-based budgeting, which means that every single pound that comes into the house has a place to go, it has a job to do. So my income always matches my outgoings. Now that doesn't mean that I am spending every penny of that money in my everyday life. A lot of it is going into savings and investments, but every single pound is accounted for. So if I want to spend some money throughout the course of the month, it needs to be coming out of a certain area of my budget. And this is where the cash envelope system that I've talked about before in a previous video, I'll link that up here and I'll pop it in the description below. But that's where this really comes in useful, because it keeps me on track with a zero-based budget. If I know that I have some spare money, I will spend it. But if I know that everything is kind of accounted for, it makes it much easier to stick to the budget. So let me know below if you use a zero-based budgeting system, or if you have even heard of it before. It's not something that I'd heard of until about a year ago, but it's something that I had kind of been working my way into anyway. But let me know below if you use a zero-based budget, and if you do, whether you've found that that has helped you to stick to your budget. Step number 7 is your fixed and your variable non-essential costs. So this is the area of your life where you may enjoy these things and they may be a relatively crucial part of your life to you, but if you really had to, you could cut them back. Either you could cut them out completely, or you could reduce them. So things like if you've got Sky TV or Netflix, or you're spending on different subscriptions, or it's you're eating out or going to the cinema, or it's your entertainment budget, all of those kind of things that, although yes, we need those things in our life, but if we had to, we could cut them and we would still survive. So this is where all of those things go into your budget. So step 8 is sinking funds. Now, sinking funds I've sort of touched on in a previous video, but what they are is little pots of money for things that I need to spend money on throughout the year, but I don't necessarily need to spend on them on a monthly basis. So things like car maintenance, we have a sinking fund for that, so that as and when something comes up with the car that we need to get repaired, and things like the MOT and when we need new tyres, we don't then have to pull that money out of our budget for that particular month. We already have a little pot of money just for the car, for anything that we need to do. We have the same for a school fund for the girls, so things like school trips, uniform, all of that sort of thing can come out of a sinking fund, rather than us having a large bill in August when we suddenly need to buy a whole load of new uniform. It doesn't need to come out of that one budget. We have that little pot of money. Step number 9 is savings and investments. Now that doesn't necessarily mean investments as in the stock market or anything like that. It is an investment in anything. So it could be in yourself. So if there's a course you want to take or something along those lines, that's where that money would come from. If you wanted to invest in a new business you wanted to start, anything like that, anything that is an investment in your future. This whole section of the budget is more about planning your financial future rather than your current financial situation. As you work down your budget, you should see the percentages. Your largest percentage of your budget is going to be spent at the top of your budget, where you have your essential outgoings, and then as you move down, it's not that things become less important, it's just if you are on a very tight budget and if you need to cut things back, you would cut from the bottom up so that you can then know that your essentials are all covered. And number 10 is that every single month sit down and go through your budget again. This is where you would put in your actual totals for the month over your estimated totals. It's also where you can see if you had any money left over, where that money will then go. So although every pound has a job, sometimes you might find that you had maybe a £50 eating out budget for the month and you didn't spend it. You didn't go anywhere, so therefore you have that £50. So rather than rolling that onto next month's budget, that money should go into either savings and investments in your future, so planning your future, or if you are in debt and you don't have an emergency fund, it should go there. So if you have an emergency fund, just pay it all into debt. If you have debt and you don't have an emergency fund, I would suggest splitting it between the two, because paying off debt is so crucial if you want to build a more secure financial future, because when you are paying off debt, you are paying off interest as well. So the faster you can get through that, the less interest you'll be paying. But at the same time, you need to be kind of shoring yourself up so that if you were to have some sort of emergency, you don't then actually need to go further into debt to be able to pay for it. So by splitting it, you're kind of covering both bases, because this is extra money that you have left over rather than being money that otherwise would have gone into those different areas anyway. So those are the steps that I always follow when I'm coming up with our household budget. Like I said, mine doesn't tend to change very much now, but it's still something that I do go back to every single month and just check that we are still on track. When you first try and create a budget, it can take a very long time. So don't get disheartened by it. It really is a very worthwhile process. And when you can see where your money's actually going, you might be shocked by how much you're spending in some areas, but equally how little you're spending in others. So I'm going to put a link in the description below for the actual budget that I use. Obviously you don't have to use this one, but you are welcome to if you want to, or if you want to use it and adjust it to how works best for you. But this covers all of the different things that I've talked about, the different sections that I've talked about, and I really do find that if you break it down like that, it really does simplify the whole process, and it makes it much clearer and it's much easier to see. I know I've touched on debt a bit in this video, and if you are in debt and you are struggling, please don't struggle on your own. There are lots of different charities and things like that out there who can give you help and advice, and I will link some below. Please don't struggle on your own though. I know what it's like to be in that position, and I would hate to think of any of you out there struggling with this, because it is horrible. But you are, by creating a budget, you are taking good steps towards getting yourself out of that situation. This is what helped get us out of that situation, and I really hope it can do the same for you. If you've liked this video, please give me a thumbs up, and I would love it if you would subscribe if you want to stick around and see more from me. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!